In the NFL, we all know size matters. A player's height, weight, speed, and strength. But there's one measurement that flies a little under the radar until draft season comes along, and that's arm length. That's right, in the trenches, a few extra inches of arm can mean the difference between pancaking your man or getting pancaked. Today, we're diving into why arm length is such a big deal in the NFL draft, especially for linemen, and how it can make or break a career. First off, what is arm length exactly? In combine terms, it's the measurement from your shoulder to the tip of your middle finger with the arm extended horizontally away from the body. For offensive and defensive linemen, this measurement is a big part of their player assessment. Longer arms help you get your hands on your opponent first. For offensive linemen, that means protecting the quarterback before the defender even gets close. For defensive linemen, it's all about keeping blockers off your chest and getting to the ball. Former NFL coach Jim Mora Jr. once said that length helps you widen the edge. The longer your arms, the more space you create, the more control you have. He emphasized that a longer reach can prevent pass rushers from closing in on the quarterback, something that's especially important on the outside. Length also comes into play with hand fighting. Longer arms give you the ability to strike first and keep separation. If you control the hands, you control the battle. That's why so many scouts view arm length as a foundational trait, especially when evaluating edge players and tackles. So who needs those long arms more, offensive or defensive linemen? Well, the answer is offensive linemen, particularly tackles. Tackles are on an island trying to stop freak athletes like Myles Garrett and Micah Parsons. If they can't get their hands on those dudes fast, it's game over. That's why teams have what's basically an unwritten rule, where if your arms aren't at least 33 inches long, you're probably not playing tackle in the NFL. Take LSU's Will Campbell. Projected first rounder, but at the 2025 Combine, his arms measured in at just 32 5/8 inches, and suddenly, the chatter began that maybe he's a guard. But at the recent LSU Pro Day, his arms were measured again, and this time they were right at 33 inches, slightly helping improve his draft stock. Campbell was quoted as saying, "For 2 years, nobody had any measurements on me, and nobody said anything about my play. So now, all of a sudden, an arm length decides if I'm a good player or not. I think it's BS." And he could certainly be correct. He was a consensus All-America selection last season, making him LSU's first on the offensive line since center Ben Wilkerson in 2004. Campbell received first-team All-SEC recognition twice during his career, and he won the 2024 SEC Jacobs Blocking Trophy, which goes to the top offensive lineman in the conference. So what you're probably picking up on here is that the offensive tackle position tends to be viewed as more valuable than an interior line spot. Tackles are tasked with taking on the opposing team's top edge rushers, which makes their roles especially important in protecting the quarterback. Because of that, tackles are often selected earlier in the draft and show up more frequently in the top 10 picks. So you can certainly understand why Will Campbell is hoping to stifle the buzz around his arm length. There's potentially millions of dollars at risk here, depending on what draft pick he comes in at. Now, as for defensive linemen, they still want arm length, there's no question about it. It helps them shed blocks, swap passes, and wrap up ball carriers. But if you're twitchy, strong, and smart, you can get away with being a little short. Just ask Aaron Donald. Donald had 32 5/8 inch arms. That's tiny by NFL defensive line standards, but he played with such leverage, explosiveness, and technique that it didn't matter. When you're that quick off the ball and that refined with your hand usage, you can overcome physical disadvantages like arm length. It's also important to note that scheme can play a role as well. A zone blocking team may value lateral agility over reach, while a team with a power run philosophy might be more concerned with a lineman's ability to anchor and drive defenders back. Alright, let's break down the numbers. So what's considered short and what's ideal? Offensive tackles generally need arms to be around 34 inches, while guards and centers can get away with 32 to 33 inches. Defensive linemen are in the 33 to 34 range, but with a little more flexibility based on role. A few recent examples where offensive linemen were scrutinized for their arm length were Peter Skoronski and Rashawn Slater. Skoronski had 32 1/4 inch arms in 2023. The Titans drafted him and ended up deciding to move him to guard. Rashawn Slater measured in at 33 inches flat in 2021. He was drafted by the Chargers, but he ended up staying at tackle and actually making a Pro Bowl as a rookie. So altogether, if you're a tackle under 33 inches, you better be elite in every other area because teams will consider moving you inside. And don't forget, these thresholds aren't random. The majority of all pro tackles in the last decade had arms over 34 inches. That doesn't mean short-armed guys can't succeed. It just means that they're the exceptions, not the rule. So now that we've dunked on short arms for a few minutes, let's give the underdog some love. Joe Thomas, Hall of Famer. His arms, 33 3/4 inches. Jason Peters, 9-time Pro Bowler, 33 1/8 inch arms. Mitchell Schwartz, first team All-Pro, 33 1/2 inch arms. These guys succeeded not because of their arm length, but because of their technique, footwork, intelligence, and sheer consistency. They were always in position, always striking first, and always staying balanced. Let's not pretend long arms guarantee NFL greatness. Plenty of prospects looked amazing at the combine and ended up fizzling fast. Greg Robinson, the number 2 overall pick in 2014, had 35-inch arms. He ended up being a bust. Eric Flowers, the number 9 overall pick in 2015, had 34.5-inch arms. Drafted by the Giants to play tackle, he ended up moving to guard after struggling on the edge. Altogether, a good reminder that traits get you in the door, but refinement keeps you on the field. So where does arm length stack up against other draft metrics? Scouts care about quickness, your 10-yard split, your cone drill, 40-yard dash, bench press. They also care about the tape and how you play in real games, as well as football IQ and leadership. Arm length ends up being just one piece of the puzzle. Some coaches would rather have a 33-inch guy with elite footwork than a 35-inch guy who's clunky. That's the reality of it. Legendary Patriots O-line coach Dante Scarnecchia put it bluntly, that shit is way overrated. He even did a demo for reporters to show how proper timing and hand placement can erase any arm length deficit. And analytics have weighed in too. Some datasets show little to no correlation between arm length and long-term performance, especially for tackles. That doesn't mean length is irrelevant, it means that what you do with it matters more than the measurement itself. So what have we learned today? Arm length matters, but it's not everything. For offensive tackles especially, teams still want to see 33 inches or more. Anything less and you'd better have a perfect tape. On defense, it's a bonus, but not a deal breaker. Guys like Aaron Donald have showed it's possible to dominate even without ideal length. Whether you've got 36-inch vines or 32-inch T-Rex arms, the most important thing is what you do with them. Technique, hustle, leverage, football IQ. That's what separates the good from the great. Hey, smash that like button if you learned something new, and subscribe for more deep dives into the sports world. Thanks for watching.